The limbs on Logan don't move like they used to. Here's a look at the Diamond Select Premier Collection Old Man Logan Resin Statue. In the future, Logan lives a quiet life, but one day an old friend shows up to ask a favor of him. And on a journey across America, the mutant Wolverine will become a hero again. This 1/7 scale, approximately 9-inch tall resin statue of Old Man Logan is based on his appearance in Marvel Comics and features a high level of detail and exacting paint applications. It is limited to only 3,000 pieces and comes packaged with a hand-numbered certificate of authenticity. Now, before we get a closer look at Logan, who's a little long in his ears, let's grab the tape measure just to see how tall the statue stands. While I'm also as well doing this, let me thank the folks over at Diamond Select, who did provide this sample of the Old Man Logan Premier Collection Resin Statue. That's a bit of a mouthful, but we could have a look at this review. Old Man Logan, in this case, is about 9.5 inches in height, or the statue is 24 centimeters tall. Packed with Logan, you get yourself a certificate of authenticity, which once again has the subject here, in this case on the right. To the left is all the 411 about that statue, indicating again that this is a Diamond Select release Premier Collection Old Man Logan Resin Statue. Shows the designer, in this case of Sean Knapp, sculpted by Matt Broilard, and it also shows you have the limited run of 3,000, that the one that was provided to me was 493. Again, I always like to display these along with the statue that I have on the shelf. Again, I would always stress this as well. If you are the same type of person that likes to display your certificates, always make sure that you're never putting them directly in front of sunlight. Simply just because, again, you don't want the certificates to ever fade, and you never want that number to be affected in the process. So again, we're going to put that to the side. Along with that, if we carefully pick up the statue and tilt it upside down, we're also treated to the exact same number, in this case 493 out of 3,000. On the bottom of this, in this case, circular base, you do get yourself 4 rubberized feet to prevent scratching on surfaces, and through that, not scratch or rub the number off in the process. While we are on the topic of display bases, let's look at the one that Logan happens to be standing on top of. In this case, we actually have ourselves a snowy scene, and through that we have a lot of use of white. The white isn't carried over across the entire surface, though. The rocks at least only get brushed by slight amounts of that white. But you can kind of see there's almost like a bluish coloring, or almost even a brown underneath that. The same coloring also gets applied here for the tree trunk stump. Try saying that 10 times fast, which again looks like it's probably a darker color, and then they brushed across it the same sort of white treatment as they gave across the snow as well. I like the snowy scene, especially when again you got a color of darker colors being used here for the jeans and of course the jacket that Logan's wearing here. It's nice that they actually used the snowy scene. One thing that's rather interesting about the base, though, is this is one time where the subject isn't necessarily in the center of the base. Normally, you would have sort of the balanced proportions of the base on either side of the subject, and the subject being dead center. But this time around, actually, Logan is sharing the same center space as the tree stump. Kind of interesting to see that this time around. Because of that, also, when it comes to displaying this statue on the shelf, you almost feel as if the statue needs to be pushed further back, just because he's a little bit more in the foreground than what he normally would be. Getting, though, a closer look at Old Man Logan, bringing the cameras up to the face here so you guys can see a closer look at the face sculpt. Generally, I do like this one. It has, to me, what I feel to be very Rob Liefeld qualities. Rob Liefeld, good or bad, depending on whether you like his work or not. I think head sculpts are always one that you recognize right away. And looking at the head sculpt of Logan, while not necessarily being drawn by Rob, it does seem to me like very much Liefeld's kind of design. You can see that his eyes are still a little more on the lighter blue side. And while those are blue, you can see the rest of his face. Generally, the skin tone I like is really a little more of a darker coloring, because it does work then well with the beard color that they give him. Very bright pink, bright gray beard. And you can also see as well, he's got that same bright gray being used for his head as well. The eyebrows, as full as they may seem, does actually, again, bring a lot of personality to the face. Overall, again, I like the head sculpt. It's not what I'm used to always seeing when it comes to Logan. Logan, you always expect to kind of see Logan with a more outrageous, crazier looking hair. But Old Man, he kind of tames it back a little bit. You can see he gets more and more subtler sort of style when it comes to his hair sculpt. Yeah, again, overall, not a bad looking head sculpt for Logan. Of course, when it comes to the rest of his outfit, he's got himself what seems to be like a gray shirt, buttoned up with only a few buttons left behind here on the top. It's got, of course, more of a Logan kind of jacket here. Kind of more the tan color here for the top collar, primarily mostly here brown. The brown is a pretty good coloring that they use. They also added, it seems to be almost like a semi-gloss sheen to it. So it's not a super shiny jacket, but it looks one that looks like it could be possibly leather. One hand, though, doesn't have the claws drawn. It's just a straight out hand. On the other hand, literally, you have yourself the claws that are extended out from the fingers. Now, this is one thing I'm not a crazy fan of when it comes to this particular statue, is that I don't find the claws, if I can just tilt the statue up sideways here, I don't find the claws work well to look like they came from his hand. They stick up a little higher than what I would have liked it. All three of them seem to be the case, with the one on the end seemed the worst of the case. I think they probably would have added them separately, as it looks like it probably would have been glued in place. Unfortunately, though, with this claw, the one on the end here, you probably can already see for yourself, not only does it look like there's a little bit of glue residue, but it also looks like the claw is sticking up a little higher than really what it should. The claws themselves being the same material as the resin and the rest of the body, obviously just being a little bit careful. This one right here is really close to the one that's next to it. I wouldn't even want to kind of heat this either. I'm just going to leave it because the last thing I would really want to do is break any one of those blades. But again, I'm not the thing I like the least about this statue. Well, there's a lot of things I do like about the statue. The one thing I don't like the least is that the claws just don't seem like they're flush enough to the rest of his hands. It's the only thing I would have really changed to this, or even maybe put the cuts further down on the knuckles, so that when they at least added the blades, which is likely what they did, have the claws lower down, so it looks a little bit more seamless and in line with the rest of his hand. For the bottom of the figure's body, of course, you got denim jeans here. I like the way they colored the jeans too. It looks to be more of a medium blue, and then they would have just brushed on top of it, like a lighter coloring of the blue. So it adds and brings a lot of the details of the wrinkles out to the foreground. And of course, he does have his hiker's boots on there also as well. Nice dark brown painted boots, very well painted boots also as well. And I don't know if you can actually see it, they've brushed on just a little bit of the white, so it looks like as he's obviously walking through a winter wonderland, some of the snow has settled on his soles. Really like the look of that. All in all, it's a good looking statue. The only thing I could offer up when it comes to certainly criticism of the statue, first of all, if you don't like the head sculpt, I like the head on this statue because, again, it kind of has sort of a Rob Liefeld quality to it. But that might be one thing that's a bit of a deal breaker when it comes to picking up the statue for yourself. You might also not be used to seeing Wolverine with such clean looking hair. I mean, generally, again, his hair would be a little bit crazier on the sides when it comes to his younger self. But again, overall, I like the head sculpt. The only thing I really don't like as much is the way that they actually added the claws. I just, again, wish that the claws were a little bit lower down, cut further down, I feel, on the knuckles, so that these blades, the claws, wouldn't be sticking up as much as they are. And again, like this last one, I can again only speak for the one that I have in front of me. This one is sticking up way too much, and there's a little bit of, again, what looks to be glue residue left behind. Other than that, though, it's not a bad looking statue. The thing that's somewhat strange about the statue is the way they've got it posed on the statue's base. Again, normally when it comes to statues, they normally are more kind of dead center, with enough occupied space proportionally surrounding them when it comes to the circular base in this case. But in this case, actually, Wolverine is sharing just as much real estate space as the tree trunk that's actually located behind him. Here for the final looks of Old Man Logan, the Premier Collection resin statue. I almost feel kind of compelled to push him back a little bit further, so he actually is the center of the turntable. But in order to do that, then I'd have the rest of the base sort of hanging off the edge, and I really don't want to be doing that when it comes to a turntable rotating resin statue. So I'm going to have him a little bit further forward than what normally would have been the case when we wrap up reviews of these resin statues. All in all, not a bad looking Wolverine at all. I think the paint applied has been handled well, not only in his face, not only in his hair, but all the rest of his costume as well. The colors are kind of faded with the way that they approached it. It looks a lot more like the source material. As they had gone more of a realistic approach when it came to painting it, I think it would have lost some of the charm that goes along with this being a comic-looking Logan. Also, with the snow base, it's a nice departure than what we're used to normally seeing. Generally on this channel, when we ever look at a resin statue, the colors are kept pretty dark usually when it comes to display base, because this subject tends to be of a lighter variety. In this case, though, even though Logan is wearing light-colored jeans and he's wearing a fairly light brown jacket, they decided to give him a snowy terrain, and it's one of the few times we've actually seen it, and it works really well with this particular statue. Still, I am a bit bummed the way they've actually attached the claws. Again, I don't know why they would have actually had them lifting up as high as they are, depending on really when you see Wolverine in the comics. Sometimes his claws are actually a little bit more flush to his arms. Other times, though, the blades are sticking higher up than his hands, which again, you can imagine would even be more painful every single time he extracts those. Overall, though, nice looking statue. What do you guys think of this? Let me know down below in the comment section. Have you had the chance to pick up the Premier Collection Old Man Logan resin statue? And if you have, let me know what you think of it down below. If you haven't, though, let me know based on this review, is this a statue you could see yourselves picking up? Once again, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide the sample of the very limited run Premier Collection Old Man Logan resin statue that we can have a look at in this review. If you guys enjoyed this video, why not throw it a like? If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and certainly on board to see more, then make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and that you're also turning on the bell notification. Popping up also at the very end of this video, if you have a little bit of time on your clawed hands, popping up will also be a playlist of other Diamond Select stuff I've looked at over the years. You know, again, if you have a little bit of time on your hands. Lots of stuff coming your way, guys. More statue reviews coming your way and more Diamond Select stuff coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.